talk about the key to sign personalities is that they reflect the planets that rule them, and I hope I made myself clear with that going through the 12 signs, that yes, we have these qualities that are lent from the planets themselves. So we have Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Earth. Earth doesn't rule a sign because we're all here, and Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So this, if we're looking at a chart, basically this is the easiest thing to see. I don't have a pointer, so I'm just going to put it with my hands. So if we're talking about the sun rules Leo. The moon rules Cancer. These two signs are the mother and the father, right? So the father is the male leader. This is the female leader, right? So you have like the mother and the father. The sun and the moon are the cosmic parents. And in your chart, the sun represents your father, the moon represents your mother. Now, both of these together came to make you, which you are then the ascendant. So when I look at someone's chart, I'm not looking at their sun sign. I'm not looking at their moon sign, because those are their parents. I'm looking at a quality of both of them together, and that embodiment into this incarnation, which makes them, which is that ascendant, that rising sign. That's why birth times are very important for interpreting charts. So you have the sun and the moon, the two luminaries. So these are the two planets that give light. No other planet gives or reflects light. The moon reflects light, the sun gives light. So you have that prototype, and they're the only planets that rule only one sign. Now, if you go to the next, if we actually go back, you can see there's the sun, and then you have Mercury is the next planet. That's the closest to the sun. So Mercury then rules two signs. It rules Virgo, and it rules Gemini. So you have Sun, Moon, Mercury, those two signs. Then you move here to Libra, which is after Virgo, and you have Taurus, which is before Gemini, and you have the Venus-ruled signs. Then you have Scorpio and Aries, which is this way more, and it's ruled by Mars. So it goes in succession from proximity to the sun. That's why they are ruled that way. So you have Sun, Moon, Mercury signs, Venus signs, Mars signs. On the bottom left and the top left are the Jupiter signs, and then opposite these two are those two over there, ruled by Saturn. So you go through all of the planets, right, this way. This is the planet, the signs that are corresponded to their own planets. Now you can also see this in a circular chart. By the way, this style chart is a South Indian style chart. So if you were to go to South India, they would draw something up that looks like this for you. So Aries is the top, center top left, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, all the way back up to Pisces is the very top left. Okay? And then all the planets would be filled in there in their respective signs. So this is a circular chart, and this is actually more true to nature because if we're looking at the zodiac, it's a band, a circular band. So let me just move over here. This is the horizon line right here. So every 2 hours we have a sign coming up over the horizon. So this is the first house, second house, third house, fourth house, all the way to the 12th. From the 7th to the 12th house is above, it's called a diurnal chart. It's during the day. Nocturnal chart is basically when all the planets are below that horizon line, and all of these signs down here. So this is just another depiction of like how you can see the planets ruling the signs. So the sun and the moon up there, then you have the Mercury signs, the Venus signs, the Mars signs, the Jupiter signs, and the Saturn signs. It's like very like nature. It's like it has this sort of harmonious way of moving. Art, symmetry, and beauty is all natural. Let's see, the Navagraha. So I don't know how much more time we have. We have some more time? Yeah, okay, great. So I want to talk about the planets since I talked about all the signs. The planets are so much connected to the signs. They're not the signs, but they have influence on the signs. So Nav, means 9. Graha means planet. Graha is a Sanskrit word that means to grip or to seize. So the planets grip or seize us. They have an impact on us. They influence us. To some extent, they control us, although we have free will. And that's a whole different lecture on free will versus fate. But these Navagrahas are the 9 planets of Vedic astrology. And so we have the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. We also have the North Node and the South Node. We haven't talked about that yet. But I will talk about it now. So the North Node it's actually the North Node is called Rahu, and the South Node is called Ketu. So the North Node, commonly in Western astrology, it's called the North Node of the Moon and the South Node of the Moon. These nodes are basically axis points. And I can actually show you a diagram because we talked about that at the beginning. I don't have to go all the way back, but it's worth seeing. Here we go. So we see this ecliptic that goes through the zodiac, this red line, that's the path of the sun. This line right here is the apparent path of the moon. So from our perspective, we see the sun's path and then we see the moon's path. These 2 points intersect. They don't overlap because there's a tilt in the earth and the moon is going around the earth's own axis. So these 2 points where they intersect are the south node of the moon, down here, and the north node of the moon. And they're always 180 degrees opposite of each other. So these 2 orbital lines intersect, and they're constantly, they never move, but they're always moving together. So the north node of the moon is Rahu, which is the head of the serpent, if you want to get into Vedic philosophy. And the south node of the moon, Ketu, is the body of the serpent. They're the same entity or the same energy, the same line, but it's just you have opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, the reason that they're qualified as planets, because they don't have a physical body, they're just shadow points. The reason that they're qualified as planets is because these are the points that cause eclipses. They're so powerful. Anytime there's a new moon or a full moon next to these north node or south nodal axis points, it causes an eclipse. A solar eclipse is a new moon next to Rahu or Ketu. A lunar eclipse is a full moon next to Rahu or Ketu. So this happens twice a year. We get eclipses. Mostly it's partial eclipses, except for the one that recently just passed, which is a total solar eclipse, which we have the entirety of the moon moving in front of the sun. It's not, you don't see part of it, it's completely eclipsed. Very rare. I think I read it was every 144 years or something like that, you have a true total solar eclipse. Otherwise, it's a pretty common occurrence that happens twice a year. 2 weeks apart. There's a solar eclipse, 2 weeks later there's a lunar eclipse, and then 6 months later there's a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse. And it's because of the sun moving through the zodiac, and you have that new moon, which is that month. 6 months later, it makes a new moon on the opposite side. So let me see if I... because Vedic astrology is Indian astrology and it's Hindu-based astrology, we have planetary deities or gods that are connected to these planets. And actually, even in Greek mythology, they consider the planets themselves to be gods. So you have Apollo and you have Zeus, Zeus is Jupiter and all of that. So it's very common historically in religious contexts to associate deities or anthropomorphized beings to the planets. So you have, the sun is ruled by Surya, or Ravi is another name. The moon is Chandra, that's the name of the deity, or so it's ruled by Soma. Mercury is ruled by Buddha. You have Venus, which is ruled by Shukra. Mars is Mangala, Kuja, or Kartikeya. I think even Morrigan. And Jupiter is ruled by Guru, or otherwise the god is known as Brihaspati. And Saturn is ruled by Shani. And these are the deities here. So the bottom two are Rahu and Ketu. You have Shani, and in the middle you have Surya, who's being pulled by 7 horses. And each of these 7 horses actually represent refracted light. So it's 7 colors of a rainbow, which comes from the sun. It comes from light. So that's why there's 7 horses pulling the sun. You have Mangala, Guru over to the left, Buddha up to the top left, Chandra, which is ruled by the moon, and you have Shukra there. So these are the 9 planets of Vedic astrology, and these planets are worshipped when you go to India, or these deities are worshipped, and you'll see them depicted in temples. And so let's talk about the elements, because we talked about signs are qualified, their characteristics are made from a combination of planets and elements.